So today we will be learning about Moses. All of you know him, his life, and why was he used? Why did God use him in delivering the children of Israel from 440 years of bondage under the Egyptian king, under Pharaoh? Okay, so before Moses was born, Pharaoh, let's just go over here. Exodus 1 and 22. So Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, every son who is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive. So because the children of Israel were getting prosperous and growing to a point, they were actually more than the Egyptians, they said, let's try to kill all the boys. So he would kill all the boys by throwing them into the river. And this is when Moses was born. Now, Moses was from the tribe of Levi. Both his parents were from the tribe of Levi. Moses was the youngest of 3 children. Moses' brother was Aaron and sister was Miriam. So Miriam was considered a prophetess, and then later on. And Aaron was the prophet next to Moses as well. That comes later. So when Moses was born, his parents hid Moses for 3 months. Now, how do you hide a child in a Hebrew house? I mean, tiny house, but with God's grace, he probably made them blind. He probably blinded them, so they didn't even see this baby for 3 months, okay? And they would go in and search the houses. So after 3 months, they said, we can't hide him anymore. Let's throw him into the sea. They basically made an ark, a little ark from bushels, and then they put kind of like something like clay or cement or whatever that will cover the inside so water won't go in. So think about this. You're letting your child go into the sea with all kinds of animals, with snakes, water snakes, and God is good. God protected Moses. So the Pharaoh's daughter, while she was bathing, she sees Moses. She sees this child crying, and she gets compassion and gets the child out of the water. And listen to this, Exodus 2 and 7. Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew woman, that she may nurse the child for you? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. So the maiden went and called the child's mother. So the sister, she doesn't know that this is this little baby sister. The sister gets the mother of the child, to nurse Moses. Look at God's hand in that. Look at God's hand. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages. So the woman took the child and nursed him. Now, imagine the king paying you to raise your own child. Ladies and gentlemen, Moses, the Pharaoh was looking for Moses to kill him, basically. And the whole time, he was hidden and he was being fed in his own house. God can hide you right in the midst of your enemies, okay? If you trust in him, your enemies can't touch you. To make a long story short, Moses grows up and is next in line to the Pharaoh. So if the Pharaoh died, he was the king. He would become the Pharaoh. So Moses is 40 years old, and one day he sees a Hebrew being pushed and shoved and beaten by a Egyptian soldier. So he has anger issues. By the way, Moses has anger issues, and one can predict that comes from his childhood. He always had that in mind, that my parents let me go. Why did my parents not take care of me and took care of my sister and my brother? I was the black sheep of the family. So he always had anger issues. So he gets up and kills this soldier. So before they find out, he flees away. 40 years old, he flees away to the wilderness and spends 40. So Moses flees away when he's 40. He spends 40 years in the wilderness, 40 years without God, 40 years he's basically in the middle. The Egyptians didn't like him because he didn't fit in with the Egyptians, and the Hebrews didn't like him because he didn't fit in with the Hebrews. So he was like this confused being, because he was Egyptian and he was Hebrew. Okay, so go to Exodus 3. One more thing. Moses marries a Moabitess, whose father was a prince of the Moabites. Now Moab, the story behind Moab, the Moabites didn't worship the God Jehovah. Who was Moab? Okay, you remember one of Lot's daughters slept with the father, made the father drink. And this is interesting. So Moab, after Sodom and Gomorrah, when God threw them out, you remember Lot's wife looked behind, and therefore she turned into a pillar of salt. So the two daughters were left with their father, and they said, if we don't do this, our father is going to be without inheritance. We need a husband. Our husbands died, or they died, so there's nothing we could do. So let's give him wine and make him drink. Some people say drinking is not a sin. So they make him drunk and lay with their father, have sex with their father, and they have a child. One of the child's name is Moab, and the other's name is Ammon, the Ammonites. So the Moabites, these are who the Moabites, this is the Moabites, okay? I just wanted to let you guys know. Now go to Exodus 3. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock back of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the back of the desert and came to the Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of the bush. So he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. Then Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn. So, this is very powerful. So when the Lord saw that he turned aside to look, what does that mean? When the Lord saw that he was interested, if you're not interested in God, God will not reveal what needs to be revealed to you, okay? That's the underlying message. God called to him from the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here I am, Lord. Then he said, do not draw near this place. Take off your sandals. So basically God says, Moses, I heard the cries of my children for 440 years. Sometimes God will kind of take a vacation from you, I guess. That's not the right word, but he won't answer your prayers. I don't know why. And then don't stop praying, because he will answer you. He will hear your cry one of these days, so don't stop praying. So he says, I'm going to deliver my children from the bondage from the Egyptians, and I'm going to use you, Moses. He said, me? What do you mean me? I can't even talk. I have a problem, with my speech, God. You know me. So Moses tries to convince God that he's not the one. Just pick somebody else. I'm not the one. I mean, this is a big deal. You're standing face to face with God, and you're saying, no, you're doing the wrong thing. Don't choose me. Go to Exodus 4:11. So Moses goes back and forth with God. I can't do this. He's talking back to God. He's the only man. Moses is the only man who has seen and talked with God face to face. He is the only man. And so God says, no, you will be okay. I will protect you. You will be okay. Just go. And he just goes back and forth. 4:11 Exodus. So the Lord said to him, who has made man's mouth? Or who makes the mute, the deaf, the seeing, or the blind? Have not I the Lord? Now therefore go, Moses, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall say. Just go. But he said, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. Oh my Lord, please send by the hand of whomever else you may send. This is very sad. Listen. So the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses. Do you know how sad that is, that you made God angry? If God is telling you to do something, you go ahead and do it. You don't look behind and say, but I can't do this because my past, I come from this past, or my future doesn't look right, I can't do it, or I can't talk, I'm not that smart, I'm very shy. Just excuse after excuse after excuse. But like, you offend him, he offended him because he's telling you, no, but I made you, I made your mouth. Can I not give you the words? Can I not put the words in your mouth for you to have better speech? So he made the Lord angry. That's a big deal. And it's shocking that God still used him. It's very interesting that God still used him. If God chooses you, sometimes no matter what you do, if he has your mind on you, he's going to choose you no matter what. Because you're the only one that could do his work. At the end, God hearkens unto Moses and he agrees with him and says, okay, fine. I will send your brother along with you. Your brother speaks better than you. Do you know how sad that is? That is very sad, but sometimes God didn't want to do that, but he does it anyway. I don't know why. He does it anyway. Go to Exodus 7:3. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. He says, you're going to go over and over again. You're going to ask Pharaoh to let my children go, but I'm not going to allow him. I'm going to harden his heart. I'm going to put a veil on his face so he doesn't let them go. You're asking why? We will talk about that in the next message, ladies and gentlemen, which will be next week. Thank you.